to an important national security issue with a review currently underway by the independent National Security Legislation Monitor, and it's a woman. She's looking at updating the definition of terrorism as it applies to the criminal code. Now, granted, this hasn't been updated since it was enacted after September 11, but I tell you, I was astounded to read that push at the end of last week by Muslim groups and the Australian Human Rights Commission to remove religion as a motivation for terror attacks. The Australian reports that in a joint statement from 15 Muslim groups led by the Muslim Advocacy Network, they are calling for religion and ideology to no longer count as a motivation for terror attacks, arguing that the current laws marginalise their faith communities. Really? Have a look around the world and see who's committing terrorism. Joining me now for his take on this push, former Australian Federal Police Detective Superintendent, David Craig. All right, David, away you go. I mean, how is not Islamic religion, fundamentalist, cultish Islamic religion, a big part of what happens with terror attacks here and around the world?
Well, it clearly is, Peter. I was astounded to read the Australian piece today. I mean, almost every single terrorist attack in the world is based predominantly on ideological or religious grounds, put political to one side. But why would you remove those two consistent elements across international terrorist networks because someone feels like they're getting a stigma? It's just absurd. The audacity of these groups is just astounding.
Yeah, I make the point that 16 terror attacks have occurred in this country since 2014 that were religiously motivated. 12 of those were driven by Islamist violent extremism. And these are the government's official review statistics. If that's what's happening, I would rather these Muslim groups create some sort of reformation or enlightenment inside their religion and stop young people in particular being radicalised. They certainly yell Allah Akbar when they do these crimes against innocents. There is a religious component, absolutely. I'd rather them put their efforts into stopping that than trying to stop us having a definition that's accurate.
Yeah, exactly, Peter. I mean, it goes to the heart. Like tactically, this would tactically frustrate policing and intelligence agencies on the ground. It would impede on the early detection of terrorist attacks and also the correction of people that are being radicalised, because without a religious framework or an ideological framework to follow, without these networks, without them sharing their information and their views, there's very little to predict what might happen. That's why lone wolf terror attacks are so difficult to predict. At a strategic level also, to remove these two elements from terrorism would put us out of legal sync with the rest of the developed world. It would impact upon our extraditions. It would impact on doing joint international investigations if the definition of terrorism wasn't consistent. It also very much affects the sharing of intelligence, because we suddenly won't be looking at any of this, and that will leave us exposed on a national security front.
I suspect too, in an operational sense, for the AFP officers that are undercover, that infiltrate a lot of these organisations, and it's not just Islamic organisations, but anywhere where they fear there could be terror attacks being worked up or violent crime being worked up, it might make it difficult for the powers to be in Canberra to sign off on some of these undercover operations if you can't use sort of the infiltration of a religious cohort, or in this case, an Islamic community, let's say, as a way to start gathering information to see whether or not there is what they're hearing around the edges occurring in, suburbs of Sydney or suburbs of Melbourne. I mean, operationally, if you lose this definition, I suspect that's going to make it harder for the AFP.
It make it a lot harder for all intelligence agencies, because that definition of religious or ideological, once they're outside that framework, we can no longer target based on that element. And this is the earliest sign, the most consistent sign of predicting a terrorist attack, is an ideological or religious motivated group or network that are building up to doing something. We remove that from the focus of intelligence and law enforcement, we're going to be very exposed, Peter.
I'll leave it there. Thank you for the honesty. Thank you, David.